I want to share this story so that you know what your prayers mean to me when I'm on the mission field. This is the story of Aster. Aster came into the clinic and had to be put on an IV. I don't know if you can see in this picture, her stomach is all bloated, and apparently her sister, who's sitting at the head of the bed, told us that when she was a young child, the family heard a scream coming from her, and then something happened, like she became possessed. Oh, I don't really know what happened, but she showed up at the clinic one day, and I sent Wendy and Nancy to pray for her. I went with them, and then I left them there, and they prayed for her for quite some time, and she actually sat up and was smiling, and she's a believer. Later on, she came into the prayer room and she started manifesting demons, and I heard screaming coming from the prayer room, and I went in and took her outside because it was so disruptive, and discerned a spirit of torment and a spirit of fear. And then some others came and prayed with us, and they discerned a spirit of rejection. I think there might have been some kind of trauma and sexual abuse as she was a young girl, and it was just heartbreaking to see this beautiful young girl tormented by Satan like she was. Thankfully, the guys in the Messianic congregation there agreed to let her stay with them overnight and to come back to the clinic the next day, because we had prayed and prayed and prayed, and she was pretty out of it, but she did have peace. And the next day, Rachel, a friend of mine, and I decided to fast for her. We got the call that she was in the doctor's office, and we went in there and prayed for her. And Rachel put that little heart on her forehead and put another one on her hand. And she was well enough then she sat up and she was well enough to walk with us back into the prayer clinic. And we see Dr. Jean here, who was praying with us over in the medical tent, come into the prayer room, and she started playing worship music over Aster on her iPod. And the Lord really did a supernatural work. We see Audrey here, Rachel, Nancy, and Dr. Jean just loving on this precious child of God and praying for her. It's so heartbreaking to see things like this in Africa. You know, people's lives are just devastated by the enemy. Apparently, Aster has one father. Obviously, she has a father, but the father has two wives. And one household is Christian and one household is witchcraft. So this girl has a hard, hard life. And I just would sure appreciate it if you would pray for her, pray for the Lord to continue to move in her life. We did have the privilege of seeing tremendous breakthrough in the time that we spent with her. We spent many, many hours in prayer with her. Many different people prayed for her. And at the end, as you'll see in some of the pictures coming up, there was breakthrough, and she was very grateful, and you could see it on her face. And I just ask you for your prayers that the deliverance that we saw with her would last for the rest of her life, because this poor girl, I mean, I'm pretty sure that she was probably sexually abused, and that's how the enemy got in as a young child. She's 15 right now, and she's lived all these years just in torment, and it is heartbreaking. But God, His love conquers all fear, and we really did see her respond to the love that we poured out upon her as the women rallied around her and prayed for her. So thank you for just keeping Aster in your prayers, and her family too. I can't imagine what it must be like and how difficult it must be for her to live in those two different worlds, really. You know, you've got the Christian family on one side, the pagan witchcraft family on the other side. You know, she broke our hearts, but it was really the reason we're sent there. People like her, the Lord sent us there for people just like her, precious children of God who are oppressed by the devil, but who Yeshua has set free. And we know whom the Son sets free is free indeed. And it was our blessing and our privilege to, just like I said earlier, pour out God's love on her and be used as vessels for the Lord to use to bring restoration to her and to give her a future and to give her a hope. And I'm just praying now that the Holy Spirit continues the work that was begun in her, and that she really does know that it's not hopeless, and God has a plan for her life. And he's never going to leave her. He's never going to forsake her. He will be with her always. And I just thank you for praying for her in that regard. She's a sweet, sweet girl, and it was really a blessing to see her restoration. And this was just one of the stories. There were so many stories. I mean, we prayed for over 6,000 people in the prayer room. There were about 107 deliverances and 846 supernatural healings. We just give God all the glory and all the praise and all the honor because it's his work, not ours. But I want to thank you for sending me, for financially supporting me, and for praying for me, leading a team in Africa when we come against such blatant demonic work that really is the work of the enemy. It's really hard, and I know I couldn't do it without your prayers and support. So I want to thank you on behalf of Aster and people just like her, who my life was able to touch and who the lives of the team was able to touch. It was, there's no greater joy than being used by the Lord to help rescue someone from the pit of hell and from the oppression of the enemy. So thank you, thank you, thank you for Aster and for all the thousands of others that your prayers and support enabled us to minister to in Hosanna, Ethiopia. It's a beautiful picture of me, Aster, Wendy, and Aster's sister. And what a great privilege it was to see this young woman restored and refreshed. And like I said, please pray that that continues and that the Holy Spirit just protects her, guards her heart and her mind in Messiah Yeshua, and that she remains free of the enemy's oppression. Thanks so much for praying for Aster. God bless you.